Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at this camera that's just being released on Kickstarter, and I'm going to have a link to that down below. This was sent to me for review, and as usual this is just an honest review. I'm not getting paid for this, and I'm going to try and just be as critical as I can as usual. This has got a pretty nice screen on it. It's got a good enough resolution, not super sharp, but you can see what you're doing, and I've seen much worse than this, and it doesn't have that horrible thing that a lot of cheap action cameras have, which is that you get a different color in each one of your eyes and the image just looks weird and horrible. When I'm looking at it without the camera, then I get really good viewing angles, so that's fantastic. This camera has 4 different modes. There's video mode, stills camera mode, play mode, and menu mode, and you scroll through those 4 with the on/off/menu button. And here I've gone to the play mode, and it's actually pretty responsive in play mode, so here I can press the record button to play the video, and it does a pretty good job, except it stretches the video out and it's also not looking very clear. I quite like this play mode. A lot of cameras have it much worse than this, or have no screen at all or something, so this is pretty good. You can scroll the menu with the up and down buttons here on the right of the camera, and then you select menu items with this, and then you go back by pressing this. Most of the time these controls work pretty well. Now I don't see any menu option here for adjusting the brightness of the screen. It's looking pretty damn good here in sunlight, so I think it's fine. Even if I put it up in direct sunlight, I can see what I'm doing. This has built-in image stabilization. One issue that I had with this camera is that it didn't recognize the card that I put in there, and then I had to format it in the camera in order to get it to work. But then my MacBook was completely unable to read that card that was formatted within the camera. So I would say, don't format within the camera and then record a bunch of stuff and then test whether your computer can read it. The image quality here is pretty good, and actually doesn't look very good when you go down to 1080p, which I think would have been nice, because a lot of the time I record in 1080p because I don't want to waste card space, and I just want to film something like reviews for YouTube or something where 4K is just unneeded. The built-in audio quality on this is just kind of okay. Usable, I guess. I mean, it doesn't sound fantastic, a little bit muffled, and it sounds like it's coming from an action camera. So here's an example of some audio, talking fairly quietly to the camera, fairly up close to the camera as well, and moving around and stuff. And it's not the best. As far as I can tell, this runs on standard GoPro batteries, which slide into there. But this anyways isn't waterproof on its own. You do need to put this into its case, which as far as I know comes included with it. And I'm actually not using this with its waterproof case. I'm just carrying it in a little pouch that I made. So this is a Low Pro Spectrum 10, which I've added this nice belt clip to, and this holds on really well onto my sweatpants, which is what I wear when I'm just out making YouTube videos or whatever. So I went with this case because it's a nice size that allows me to keep a few extra things, like maybe some batteries or just a little first aid kit or something. And I don't know if you can buy these. What I had to do was just buy a torch holster type thing and then just remove it and sew it onto this. And also very cheap to do. I think you can buy both of these for under £10. This thing doesn't have a screw connection under the camera, which would have been nice for connecting it to a tripod or a selfie stick, but you can do that with the case. I guess it's more of an action camera than a pocket camera. The on-off times are fairly quick on this. Something else I still would really like to see is an action camera with a super wide angle lens, like the phone lens that I reviewed a while back, which was so wide that it could see behind itself. This is pretty good, and you can see here if I go to camera mode, then you can see it gets wider because we don't have the image stabilization mode on anymore. And I gotta say, at the moment I'm really impressed with the battery life, although I haven't done a full test of that yet. So let's quickly go over the menu here. We've got video options from 4K, then we've got the image size, then we have a time-lapse mode, 1 to 60 seconds between photos, and then the loop recording, so that would just continue filming a loop and deleting the old stuff that you filmed. Although I don't see an option to fully record over the entire card, which ideally is what I would want. If I'm doing loop recording, I would want this to finish, you know, almost all that's left on the card, and only then start deleting stuff. Then we have the anti-shake, and we have the lens angle, so it goes from wide to narrow. And then we have the burst mode. between 3 and 15 photos. And the microphone on or off. Then we have exposure compensation from 0 to plus or minus 2. Manual ISO. This would still be auto exposure. So this still has automatic shutter speed, and I don't believe that this would have a variable aperture. So your manual ISO is really just if you don't want it to go above a certain ISO because you don't like the way it looks. Then here we have an auto white balance option. I think what they mean is white balance rather than auto white balance. Auto, daylight, cloudy, tungsten, and fluorescent. So let's try this in daylight mode. And this still says auto white balance, so we'll forgive them for that. Scene mode. So here we've got person, scenery, underwater, defogging. If you don't like frogs, you have a defrogging mode. Then we have the options to rotate the screen in case you want to mount this upside down. Then here we have the options for the light frequency between 50 and 60 hertz. So this is telling this what shutter speeds to use in order to try to avoid flickering lines that you'll see with artificial lighting sometimes. So this would depend on your country. So if you're in a country with 50 hertz electricity, then you set 50 hertz. Then here we have the language selection, and out of the box this was set to Chinese, but it was easy to find this because it's got a little globe there. Then we have the time date option, and you can set this to record a timestamp on the videos and photos. Then we have the Wi-Fi option. I think that's to connect a mobile phone to this, and I haven't tried that at all, so I can't tell you how that works. Then we have a screensaver option, so you can set it to 1, 3, or 5 minutes. And auto shut off is 5 minutes, but you also have 1 and 3 minutes. And then you have delete, so that allows you to delete everything or just your current file. Then we have the format option to erase everything off the card, and the default setting, so to reset the menu. My version here is this. So final thoughts on this camera. I actually really like it, and if it's at a good price, then I would say if you like it, go for it. It's a nice camera. I'm not seeing any huge issues here.